Good morning.
Hi, Laura.
Welcome, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions. It is Friday, May 15th. And we have with us Laura Frischman, of Historic Preservation. We're working on House Resolution HR 18 that is trying to help, let me put it that way, help the town of Johnson in its efforts to preserve the Julian Scott birthplace and home. It was a victim of the 23 flood. There was a FEMA buyout, and the community would really like to preserve this home in some way. They are going to be meeting Monday evening.
Monday at 7.
The town of Johnson. And Laura, we wanted just to get a conversation with you in terms of what you know, what the thinking is, what contact you might have had, if any, with the town of Johnson, what you might understand with the FEMA buyout or any of that. So I'll turn it over to you. If you could identify yourself for the record.
Yes, good morning. I'm Laura Trieshman. I'm the State Historic Preservation Officer. This buyout came to us with a number of other buyout requests from FEMA following the 23 flooding. I think it arrived in our office in December of 24. We reviewed it and we concurred with FEMA's finding that it was eligible for the National Register. And they moved forward with identifying mitigation for the buyout.
So is eligible for the National Registry?
That was FEMA's initial determination, and we did not dispute that. I think now that we have been inside the building and we're not processing 230 FEMA buyouts all at once, we've had the opportunity to talk with FEMA, and it likely would not be eligible for the National Register individually because of its significant alterations.
So is that why FEMA in the buyout included money for this particular project, this particular building, home?
Because they determined that it was eligible, and we concurred with that. Yes, if it was determined not eligible, there would be no funding from FEMA. There would be no buyout.
So it is eligible. This is confusing to me. I'm trying to get this. So it is eligible for the buyout because they feel it's eligible for the National Registry.
When it was, yes, when we knew what we knew about its condition and its alterations, we all determined it was eligible. And at that time, we even knew that it was the Julian Scott House.
And how long ago was it?
It was December of 24, and we signed off in January of 25. And then the town, at the request of the Historical Society, asked us to come and do site visits. So we went inside the building, which is not something we normally do for buyouts. We did that in March of this year, 26.
So is that when it was determined it would not be eligible for the National Registry?
It was felt, not officially changed, because if we changed the determination of eligibility, it would not be eligible for the buyout.
So FEMA is still considering it as part of on the National Registry.
Eligible for.
Eligible for. And FEMA is already committed to the buyout for this particular project or building?
I have talked to FEMA, and they have already given the money to the town for the buyout.
And
we've already identified mitigation. So if it were not eligible, there'd be a different buyout path. And
So
because it's eligible, we will be mitigating that loss.
Is it on the state registry?
Yes, it is. It was listed in the state register in 1990.
So hang on, Troy, how much is the buyout? You know?
I don't know. We're not involved in that. I don't know the dollar amount.
Troy?
I have a couple questions. The first one, was FEMA present when you made the determination that it was not likely to remain eligible for a national registry? Or is that just the state's determination?
I have since had conversations about that, and they agree that it likely is not eligible, but that is not something we want to backtrack on.
Gotcha. Thank you. And you indicated, though, that if it loses eligibility, there may still be other paths for the buyout. Can you talk a little bit more about what those other paths are?
Yes, whether it's eligible or not, it would get, it would be eligible for a buyout. It would just go a different path.
Gotcha.
For properties that are listed or eligible for the National Register, we then mitigate the loss because it's an adverse effect.
What's entailed with that mitigation?
We're actually working with FEMA and Vermont Emergency Management to do a larger mitigation project for all of the buyouts from 23 and 24, so that it ends up being a, rather than an individual take photographs today and then destroy it,
Yeah.
that we're doing a lot more proactive documentation for all of the resources in these historic districts.
Okay.
And towns.
Laura, you've seen the resolution or no?
Yes,
So if we were to agree to this resolution, does it make your department responsible for anything monetarily, or is it just saying that we support the town of Johnson doing this?
it,
Does that make sense?
yes, it is just a support. It doesn't put us in a monetary position. It wouldn't change the mitigation. From our perspective, what would need to happen to change anything for the path that it's on now is for the town to say to Vermont Emergency Management, we don't want to do the buyout. We want to move the building, or we want to elevate it or do something else. So Vermont Emergency Management would then go to FEMA and renegotiate the application. And the
Thank
town
you.
would have to give back the money and get money later in a different way.
And
And
it
then
could
they
be,
would come to us to check to make sure we were okay with what was going to happen.
so you got a lot of ducks to get in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they did take that route, which is what I think the town may want to take that route, the initial, they would have to pay back the buyout that they got for that property. Then it would go through, FEMA would then put it through a different route for a buyout. And that buyout amount could be less than what they received right now.
It wouldn't be a buyout. It would be another flood adaptation.
Okay. But it would be a lesser amount than what they have to pay back.
I don't know that. If they're gonna move it, they might get more money because that tends to be a little more expensive. I don't know. They would have to negotiate with Vermont Emergency Management and FEMA.
So the town needs to initiate this.
Yes,
They need to connect with emergency management, and emergency management will then connect with FEMA. Our FEMA, would that be, do they go also through Doug Farnham? In that part of,
he would be looped in and aware of everything, but it would go to Region 1 of FEMA.
and it would be our state emergency management that would be representing Johnson in this?
Yes. And Johnson would have to put in a new application to elevate or move the building.
Dan, could you identify yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Dan Noyes, representative from Woolpit, but represent Johnson. What is the time frame for this? How long does a typical buyout or to go back and forth with FEMA to renegotiate? Do you have any idea on how long that might take?
Well, we always have 30 days. It is also a declared emergency, so we would have 10 days to be reviewing. I don't know, if the application was complete, FEMA, I think, has 45 days to review and process, but that's if they're all there working.
Good point.
So it's the end of the year.
Okay.
Well, they've been
might have-
furloughed a lot, but they are back now, so,
Yeah.
there are set process timelines for how long we're supposed to be looking at things.
I'm just thinking of the 90 days that we have right now. Is that sufficient?
90 days for Johnson to act.
Correct.
If
Well, you're-
if you went to Vermont Emergency Management and said, we want to do a new application during your 90 days, that would start a new clock, is my understanding.
The time that you reach out to emergency management starts the new clock.
Yes, because they have to inform FEMA then and get a new application in. But I do not believe that the 90 days would continue. You would notify Vermont Emergency Management and FEMA that you're taking another path, you want to do a new application.
And just back to the buyout question in terms of funding. Have you seen properties that are historically significant receive more money than just buying the property out for its market value? Has there been historical that there is more money available through that path versus just buying it out and getting rid of it?
We're not involved in the money, so I don't know, but that does not sound like something, I've never heard of anything like that.
Okay,
No.
so I was just wondering if there's other historic properties that have gone through this FEMA buyout process, and what was the outcome there?
There are, like I said, we've processed about 230 of them since July 2023, and they either move forward with a buyout and are demolished, and then nothing can ever be built on that property, or they say, no, thank you, we've changed our mind, and nothing happens.
So right now, there's gonna be a meeting in Johnson
Yeah,
on
Monday
Monday.
night.
So it's really up to the town right
Right,
now
I
to take
understand.
the next step. So I just don't know where the resolution that's before us falls into that.
Because
I'm
I would
just not-
say that we're here to help and do everything we can. You know, if Johnson wants to save the house, I would explain what part of the building should be saved, that more is associated with Julian Scott versus the whole thing. You know, and guide you and help you in making sure that it's in a location that is not flooding, and that it's put on the right foundation and the right work is done to it. So we're always here to help.
So who would own this house? Would it be the town of Johnson, or is it gonna be a state-owned historical site?
Oh, no.
That's what I asked. That's what I was trying to get at with my original.
No, right now it belongs to the town, is my understanding, as part of the buyout process. The town could keep it, they could sell it, they could do whatever they wanted with it.
Would our roadside marker be moved wherever they move it? So we do have a roadside marker there that we understood.
That would
Or
be a
would it-
conversation with the town, whether, you know, we wanted the marker to follow the building or we wanted to mark the spot.
Because the state owns that marker.
Correct.
Yeah, we've paid for those markers through the Capitol bill.
Which,
In in her division, we own them.
and that's kind of an interesting question, right? Because And it doesn't matter right now, it really doesn't, but it's interesting to think about because it's marking where the place was versus the actual place, or is it marking the place even though it's been moved? And
That's
how
what,
do you, it's interesting.
that's what we're gonna have
Yeah.
to
And
resolve.
then to the question, if the town owns it, could they elevate it out of the floodplain? You know, I'm not sure what the elevation change would need to be. It's pretty high up, I mean, but that area does flood.
So is there, go ahead, Laura.
It needs to be base flood plus 3. So it's gonna be high, and that's going to further compromise its integrity.
Base flood and 3 feet. Is it
Yep.
feet?
Yep.
Too bad we just reduced the floodplain, and right across the river from that is a floodplain remediation project. They could use all the fill. They hauled away from that.
Could have used all the. So really, we don't know if this resolution helps or hinders or makes any difference. We don't know. But what I'm thinking is you're gonna be meeting with the town of Johnson Monday, right, Laura, or not?
No.
No?
This is the first I heard of a meeting.
Okay,
There's a.
And- We typically don't advocate at the local level, right? We respect what the town wants, the historical societies want. We will respond to state and federal agencies and help.
so what decision the town really needs to make on Monday is whether or not to reach out to Vermont Emergency Management to say, we want a different track for the buyout. That's what they really
And
need
that's
to
where
do.
Stephanie Sweet was, correct?
That's where who?
What's her name?
Japanese three,
Stephanie Sweet?
she worked for FEMA.
She works for FEMA.
FEMA, FEMA.
Oh, Vermont Emergency Management.
She's on the agenda for the select board meeting. On
Do you know
Monday.
Stephanie Sweet? Who is the,
Stephanie
the-
Smith. Stephanie Smith, and she is really excellent, and she will give great advice about the process and the funding, and she's the person to be talking to.
Okay, she's on the agenda, 7:00 Monday night.
so you will know more Tuesday and you may not need this resolution.
Correct.
Okay, so let's circle back.
I think that's
The
fantastic.
two representatives from Johnson District.
We can.
You know, you're in
come
different
back to the
towns.
meeting on Tuesday morning.
Come back
Just-
and let us know.
Yeah.
'Cause it really looks like it's a town decision that you can be the conduit, the go-between for state entity with the town.
Yeah.
For that.
Fantastic.
Does that make sense to
Yeah,
folks?
it
And then
does.
go from there? Laura, thank you so much for short notice on this. We
Thank
got
you.
one more question, not on this. It's on our favorite topic, Bennington Monument. So, any further questions on the resolution or the issue with Johnson and FEMA and the buyout? Want to hold on here. Anything else from you, Dan or Richard?
No, we're good.
See ya.
You good? Thank you. And circle back with us next Tuesday.
Okay.
We're a friendly group in here.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Most of the time.
We'll see. All right. Be
Oh,
careful.
Richard's only next door. He
Be
he can
careful
hear
with
us. Thank you. So Laura, we've got, just while we have you, we just want updates on the Bennington Monument. I know you had a public meeting in Bennington a few weeks ago, got a little rowdy. And Mary?
I'm just wondering if there's any further analysis that's been done in regards to the project.
Yes. So for the community conversations, we had one in person in Bennington. We had another one this week
It was this on Tuesday.
virtually. We polled people, and the only option anybody picked was full restoration.
Well, that's not a surprise. I think we discussed that. But my question is, what further actual analysis on the building has been done?
Yes, we have met with the engineers, actually, the day after I was in testifying with you. And I was telling them the questions and concerns that you all had, let's dry it out from the inside. They stressed to me that the exterior is the problem. and they are writing up a summary report based on that. And they have even agreed to come in and speak to you. But I'm waiting to get that summary report.
And who is they?
This is TY Lin. They're the engineers that worked on the study, and they are now under contract with us for monitoring, specifically the seismic, but also they are structural engineers.
So would they, if the committee is interested, I don't want to speak for the committee, would the committee be interested in having them come in and talk about this, and would they be able to do it at some point next week? Is the committee interested or not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to.
Would they be able to do it? It could be done electronically. Would they be able to do it sometime next week? Because we're pushing to get out of here at the end next Friday.
I can check. The head engineer has retired and now lives in Guilford. And then the others are, I think, in Boston or New York, but we could do them virtually. Yes, I can check.
Is he doing this? He's retired, but is he on the job or is it just the work
He's
he did?
He's retired and has been contracted back by the company and is working particularly on our project.
Okay. So is that continuity in terms of contracting out with him?
Yes.
Can you kind of reach out to them and connect with Tate and Tate connect with Laura and the threesome, try to figure out a time frame for when they would be available? It would be good to get some different days and different times because we just don't know how our schedule is going to play out next week. for
Yes.
that. Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Does that make sense for
Absolutely.
folks? Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Laura, Sean, and I'm working on my, little presentation for my visit to the Washington Monument, and I'm gonna give it next week. So I'll let you know when I'm doing it, but it'll be available, like you could always watch it whenever, but I just wanted to give you the heads up on that.
Yes, please. I'd love to be there to see that.
Okay.
That would be great. So we can, again, Tate's the connector.
Yeah.
Say. Thank you so much, Laura, on such short notice.
Absolutely. Yes.
You
Thank
gained
you.
a half hour early now to do something else. Thank you. We'll be in
Thank
touch.
you.
So for the committee, we're today, conference committee for the capital bills meeting at 12:30 down Senate Institutions Room. And what's going to transpire is the Senate will present their changes to the capital bill to us for that.
Who's on their committee?
Hmm?
Who's on the Senate committee?
It is Senator Harrison, Plunkett, and Benson.
Yep.
For that. And hopefully we can finish up the capital bill next week, Wednesday or Thursday. It's the goal. So anything else before we finish up and call it a week, at least in this room for the full committee. And next week, we're done pretty much our work, except for little stuff maybe we percolate up. And next week's gonna be a very different week. And so, okay, so let's go off of YouTube and be back.